yeah, with a lot of drugs, sex, and jacuzzis.
Welcome back to the Boulder Zone. On deck, I have a former CEO and accomplished author whose passion today is teaching men and women about sexual health and its relationship to business, money, and power. You may want to put in your earbuds because today's show has a very frank and adult theme. Here we go.
This is the Boulder Zone, the fusion of masculine insight and entertainment.
This is Sparta!
Here's your host, Marco Boulder.
My guest today is Lenerd Louw, a CEO who left his corporate gig in Cape Town, South Africa, after a major business shift back in 2013. He embarked on a 5-year, very personal journey of self-discovery. He explored 5 continents and 35 countries, where he dove into the different aspects of spirituality, sexuality, and personal growth through various initiations and workshops. He then authored Jump, an epic soul and sex adventure back in 2019. He won the Literary Titan Silver Award after it climbed to the number 2 spot on Amazon's spiritual, religious, and travel category in 2020. Lenerd's passions lies in conscious business practices and unashamedly embracing sexuality. His vision is a world where people can confidently integrate both masculine and feminine aspects regardless of gender. For a deeper dive into his transformative journey, here he is, Lenerd Louw. Lenerd, how's it?
Awesome, cool, Marco. It's so great talking to you, man. All good.
Thank you for coming on the show, buddy. Let's begin before your big trek around the world. What was your life like as a CEO in Cape Town, and what caused you to give it up?
Yes, this was in 2009. I was running an insurance company in South Africa. Up until then, I really enjoyed what I was doing. And then at a point around about 2009, I just had this, it's so difficult to explain, but it was just this internal shift that happened to me where I just started to realize there's something else I want to do with my life. I started getting a bit bored with the work, and I just felt there was something new out there. And it didn't make any sense, Marco. So I tried to distract myself from that life. Yeah, with a lot of drugs, sex, and jacuzzis. That took me 4 years of that, just to try to distract myself from that. Inner calling to shift into something else. And then after about 4 or 5 years of that, I surrendered and I resigned as CEO, and also, it was the voice of the inner shift just told me it's time to clear out all of the old and allow for the new to come into my life. So that's a very brief, short summary of that time in South Africa between 2009 and 2013.
I mentioned in the onset 5 continents, 35 countries. Did you have a major goal in mind, or what inspired you to make this pilgrimage?
No goal at all. Just massive confusion. I thought I'll go and start my journey, go out there and take a few months off and maybe go up to New York and look at new businesses and see whether there's something else that interests me. And then this thing totally changed. I thought it was this maybe just go out and take some time out, and the journey totally changed. It just became this journey of awakening, this journey of learning. Spent a year in South America in 2014, the first year. But then it just rolled out into 35 countries over 5 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So did you have an aha moment in your journey where you started to find these answers that you were looking for?
So what I had definitely in Cape Town is that, as I mentioned before, I had the 4 years of really trying to distract myself from this inner calling to expand into something different into my life. And I was still then, the CEO of insurance company. And one day in 2012, I was walking on the beach, and I was on this beautiful setting, beautiful, turquoise water and white sand and Table Mountain behind you. It's this beautiful setting, but I couldn't see the beauty in it. And after 5 minutes, I went, I can't see the beauty, man. And I went home, called some people, had a party. But on that walk, I realized I'm in big trouble. And I realized I was always loved nature. I always loved being in the elements and the beauty of this planet. And I couldn't see it. I just realized that I'm so disconnected from nature. I'm so disconnected from myself. And that then led to, me going overseas and starting this journey, going to South America without knowing what I'm jumping into. It was very much a jump into the unknown. I had absolutely no idea. But then in South America, I got sick with parasites, and that led me to, and I tried to treat that with antibiotics and stuff like that. And I very quickly found out, no, antibiotics don't kill parasites. But that led me to a shamanic guy, that led me to energy healing, to emotional release. And that started a whole process of meeting people. And that started the inner journey. And that then developed. So that then was the aha moment when I was there in Guatemala, in a beautiful village called San Marcos. And I just realized that's where it really dropped in. And I then just opened up to everything else. I started realizing, before I was like, I only believed in what I could touch. Energy for me was a woohoo thing. And when I was there, I really tapped into that and, doing some workshops and I just really opened up to it. It was really just opening up and questioning everything and allow all of the new to come in. And that then just flowed from there.
These workshops that you attended, were they locally based? What were those about?
Yeah, that's right. So in Guatemala, it's basically when I was trying to get rid of my parasites, I met a crazy guy and he told me about another lady that's living around the corner. She told me about workshops that are happening around the world. So yeah, all of it was residential. None of it was online. It was all residential workshops that I would go to in different countries. And I was just following, what was happening wherever. And it was all over the world, India also. And yeah, so it's residential. And yeah, it was just, following the breadcrumbs of where the next learning was.
These sound like amazing experiences, especially this one you outlined there in Hawaii. I'm interested in hearing about how you're folding them into a business mindset. That was one of the things that you promote on your website, is being able to take this experience, what they can learn from you, what people can learn from you, and applying it to different avenues to include business. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly, Marco. Yeah, it's such a big part, if you start a business and if you create businesses and if you create projects within businesses, often it's kind of done a little bit unconsciously where you're just, okay, here's the idea and you go with it. So what I really believe we're moving into a world where things are created from a heart space and from a love space. And, this is not just, hippie talk or hoo-hoo talk. I think the scientific and the science is coming very closely connected to this now, is that everything is made of energy. And if you create something with a specific kind of energy, when you create it, afterwards it will consist of that energy. And your energy is to exploit and as opposed to maybe what value and what greater can I bring to the world, and it can be profitable, nothing wrong with that. But does it come from a collaboration point or exploitation point of view? So yeah, so I think that is super critical. And it's not just critical for it's good for the planet and it's good for humanity to create businesses from a heart space. It's also from a business point very important, because if it comes from that energy, then it is where we're all moving towards. It consists of that higher energy. And we now see around the world that these old style businesses that are based on exploitation are falling apart. I think it's quite visible that these the structures in both in business and even in countries and politics and stuff That old school thing is falling apart. It's making way for that new higher vibration. So your chance of succeeding is going to be so much better if you build it from the heart than if you don't.
One thing that I read that I thought was really intriguing was the sexual nature of what you teach and what you show people. We know that a strong sexual relationship is crucial. What do you teach beyond what is out there now that is different from what they can get out of an average book to improve relationships and personal sexuality?
Oh, yeah, beautiful, Marco. Yeah, so maybe I can start with maybe a little bit from my story, and that is that, yeah, I was, you probably heard the term multi-orgasmic man. Basically, that happened to me 20 years ago already, and I was already then in business where I was starting to have orgasms in my body without ejaculating. And there was no one to talk to in those days, like it's not in business in a boardroom, you're talking about ejaculation, it doesn't get, and, men don't really talk to each other about sexuality in any event. So there was no one to talk to about any of these. But when I was on my journey around the world, I came across Tantra and Taoism, and I then realized that this has been a practice. This is a practice that has been in place for 2,000-3,000 years. The Taoists and the Tantrics in India and in China. So I suppose what I'm bringing, this one of the aspects what I'm bringing to the world is exactly that part, and it's not new because it's thousands of years old. It's just that very few men and very few women know about it. Very few people know that orgasm and ejaculation are two different things. And, once you start realizing that and you start practicing, it's a full-on game changer. It changes so many things, not just in your sexuality and the way you make love, but also in your life. There's so many benefits to that. And sure, we can talk for ages about it. Well, I really want to bring that in awareness of people, because I don't know, I think 2 or 3 or 5% of the population knows about this. And I want to, in the next 5 years, want at least half the planet to know about this, and whether they practice it or not. Now, I call it the practice of ejaculation choice. You may have heard about it on the internet, semen retention. Those are one of the aspects, that's quite important. But then it's also broader and deeper, because in relationships, it's bringing that forward. But specifically, ejaculation choice, it allows you to love for so much longer. So it means it's not just that you have and your partner have so much more orgasms and have so much more fun and pleasure running through her body and your body, but it also means now instead of having 5 minutes together there, you've got an hour together where you look into each other's eyes and you experience each other. It takes the relationship to just another level.
I know that you outline this in your workshops and your book in much greater detail, but if you could give us a high level look at what that experience is that you captured, this multi-orgasmic experience.
Yes, that's basically, so in essence, most guys ejaculate, every day or a few times a day or every second day, either with lovemaking or with self-pleasuring or masturbation. And in essence, what it means is you go into what they call an ejaculation hangover period. You've got 200-300 million sperm cells leaving your body with each ejaculation, and that really exhausts you. It really makes you tired. And then the lovemaking experience is also then relatively short, because the moment you ejaculate, that's the end of the game. As a man, you kind of lose a little bit of interest, and you roll around, have a good sleep, and that's perfectly fine because you've so much energy has left your body. So how it would look differently then is that you can get to the point of close to ejaculation, and rather than that energy spilling out from your groin area, you can now breathe it up into your body. And it's actually very simple and super simple and easy. It's just putting the intention there of spreading it through your body, breathing it up to your heart and to your head. And then it stops you from ejaculating because the energy is now spread throughout your body. It's not just focused on your groin area. And that means you can make love for a longer period. And, us men are ready within 30 seconds, we have a 60 seconds, we have a erection. And for women to get into the multi-orgasmic state, it takes them 15, 20 minutes, even to warm up. Just to warm up takes them 15, 20 minutes, generally speaking. And then only after that do they get into orgasmic states. So therefore, lovemaking, shorter than 20 minutes is so different than lovemaking of longer than that, and even up to an hour, where you can really spend this time together with deep connection, look into each other's eyes, experience the deep, almost spiritual experience of lovemaking that comes with that then.
I can imagine that if a man or a couple comes to you with intimacy issues and you teach the man these techniques, what he needs to do, how that could in itself, just through him, change the whole sexual dynamic in his household. But let's say the female is having issues with orgasm or intimacy. Can she come to you and talk to you about that? And can you give her some insight on how to make that better?
Yes, and also with the men, just a point on that, Marco. With the men also, it's so important that they then also talk to their partner. So when they do, let's say, this practice of ejaculation choice that I then help them with, their partners are very much. It's not a solo practice. They do it together with their partner. If they don't have a partner, it's fine. They can still practice it. With their self pleasuring, masturbation, and so on. They can still practice all of that. But yeah, so definitely with couples and with women, also. I mean, because I'm a man, it comes, very natural to talk about some of the things with men and they can relate. But yeah, no, with women also.
That's good to know. And folks, you definitely want to get his book because he goes into greater detail in how to do that. Moving back to your journey in getting through all of this, you have had to have some real highs and lows. Can you tell me, first of all, what was your most amazing experience on the entire trip, on the entire journey that stays with you today?
Wow, that is a really good question, Marco. Sure, there were many, but I'll just pop in, talk about what has just popped into my mind now, and that was in one of these 6 days residential experiences in, I think this was in Australia. Yes, it was in Australia. I did a spiritual, sexual, shamanic level 2 kind of 6-day journey there. And on one of the days, we did a ritual dropping into your feminine energies. We have a brother day the day before, and then the day after that, we had a sister day, And this is men and women. So day before, everyone go and drop into their masculine energies, So whether you're born in a man or in a woman body, we all have masculine and feminine energies inside us, yin and yang, all of that. And yeah, it's all cool to know that in your mind, but it was fascinating. We did this ritual there in Australia and close to Byron Bay, and I just dropped into my deep feminine energy and my dark feminine energy. And it was fascinating. It was like a really profound experience. And it's so difficult to put this in words because this is very much an embodiment experience. But afterwards, it was a nuts break and I went to walk in the forest there. And I could just feel this crazy wild woman inside me. And I'm a man, I'm a South African man, which is South African, men in a way quite, traditional and very masculine. But I could just encounter my inner feminine, and not just what they call the light feminine, but the dark feminine. Now I've always known that my masculine and a warrior dark masculine is quite. I mean, I went to the army in South Africa. It's a pretty rough place, Africa and South Africa. So I always knew my warrior spirit as a man, but I never knew about my crazy, fierce, dark feminine energy. So I mean, man, this is quite a difficult concept to put through in words, but I hope I've done it justice. I can just that was a profound experience. I just felt it, and I felt like this is quite vicious. I could understand that for love, that this dark feminine would chop a head off for the sake of love. That was quite profound.
That is fascinating. The dark feminine side sounds like it could be almost as brutal as the dark masculine side. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. Definitely, Marco. And in some ways, even more so in a strange way. And it comes from, and people often misunderstand dark. If you say dark, they often think evil or bad or so. This is not in that context. This is in a context where, like a mother, what if her kids are being threatened, and for self-defense, she's going to kill that person that's going to, to save the kids. So it comes from that space, just for people out there that may confuse the dark part to it. It comes from that space. And that is pretty fierce. Yeah, for sure.
Are you saying that there are different triggers, one that would trigger the dark masculine as opposed to one that would trigger the dark feminine?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. Potentially could be, but I think what is important often is that I think what the important point here is that once you can actually feel these energies, you can actually also bring them up. So it's one part where you just get triggered and you act on it. Another part where you feel, okay, now I have to drop into this energy to do whatever I need to do. So I think that is the part, is that actually if you really start embodying it and you're feeling it, then I think that's super cool. I mean, I'll for example, I often use with the guys, I often talk to them, to drop into your feminine energies, and then I just don't talk specifically necessarily dark or light. I just talk your feminine energy as a man. Can you feel your feminine energies? And I often say to them, and the guys they get a little bit confused, because they're like, oh, wow, man, this is a bit weird. And they don't understand why. But a big benefit of that is, for example, when you make love to a woman, she's feminine. If you know your own inner feminine well, then your love making with her comes from another place. You're much more in tuned, intuition-wise. So you can feel her feminine better. So when you make love and you know your own inner feminine and you roll around with her, you actually know what's the next thing to do, in the lovemaking process. As opposed to often the guys ask, okay, what do I have to be a good lover? What I do? What's point? Give me the manual from point A, B, C, and D. What points to buttons to press? And there's actually so much more. So that's an example of how this could really help you in your life.
Today, there are big masculine movements. MGTOW, men going their own way, Red Pill are two big examples that are really dominating the masculine mindset in what a masculine man should be. How do you square what you teach against these fairly new, trendy techniques and books that are out there now?
So mine is very much, I keep mine relatively simple, and I don't know necessarily the detail of those companies, organizations, in the States as such. But mine is very simple and straightforward, So I'm very passionate about heart-centered and truthful masculinity and unapologetic masculinity. So from where I come from is that, I see, Marco, especially the young guys coming into this world, almost apologetic of being a man. So what I want to bring there is the proud of being a man, bring the proud of masculinity back, but the heart-centered masculinity, not the old school patriarchy, macho masculinity, which was often sometimes unhealthy. So the masculinity where you are, wow, it's good to be a man, and the word masculine is a beautiful word. Sometimes it's almost seen as a bit of a dirty word, and I think that's where some organizations, and I can't talk because I don't know the detail of what you've mentioned, but I know there are some that maybe go overboard, where the guys go totally overboard as a reaction. But I think there are so many women out there that support what I do and what you do, in terms of for men to really be proud of their masculine part. Yes, to drop into their hearts, but not to lose their masculine part. Yes, to drop into their feminine energies and to feel themselves in their emotions. But hey, man, still to be a man, and still to be in their masculine energy. And I often have women saying, if I can be as direct as saying, man, um, I want my man still to be able to fuck me properly. Yes, I want him to be in his heart, but I don't want also to be over. I want him to be integrated with both. I don't want him to be over feminine. I want him to be in his emotions, but I also want him to be a man and to be able to fuck me properly. So I don't know how that relates necessarily to the organizations you talk about, but that's very much where I come from.
That is the major issue that we are facing here in the States. The major push in feminism, in that it is almost denying the inherent masculinity that we are born with. Men are almost ashamed now to feel that masculinity, to act upon that, for fear of being chastised or being critical or being called sexist or being blamed for the over masculization of the past, that sort of thing. So they're hesitant. And those are those younger guys that you're talking about. So how would you square the femininity aspect against what you do?
Yeah, that's crazy, Marco. But what you just mentioned is absolutely crazy. And also, I feel very strongly to be out there for men and especially for the younger guys, to say to them, hey, man, do your inner work, sort your own inner stuff out. That's super important to, to raise your awareness, raise your consciousness, do your inner work. But never, never apologize to be a man, and never apologize for your masculinity, beautiful aspects of who you are, because that's what women want. Women that are really done their work and also done the deep inner journey do not want to emasculate men. Why the fuck would they want to do that? Because that will be terrible for them to be in a space where they have emasculated man. There's absolutely no sense in that. So women that are really done their work, they want masculine men. I mean, I come across a lot of women that have done their work. They work in spirituality and sexuality, and they, I'm doing a talk here in Nyon in Geneva, and it's a beautiful woman that the woman is organizing it, and she says, man, we want our men, we want to celebrate and adore that strong masculine energy. Yeah, so I mean, I often say to the young guys, I'll give you an example. Some of the guys say, well, I dance with a woman and then I get an erection, then I feel super embarrassed and I try to hide it. And I said, no, nonsense, fuck that shit, if I can be so direct. You never want to put your erection down. I mean, if it's all in consent and you have that erection, celebrate that erection. And that is actually a beautiful compliment to the woman. And most women can take it, well, if they have done their work and they trick it unhealthily, well, take that as a beautiful, beautiful compliment. Now, if you as a man, as a young man now trying to hide your erection and try to stop it, I mean, that's terrible, because now you're stopping your sexual energy flowing, and, maybe a few years down the line, you're still going to have a problem having an erection. So if you have an erection, you never want to stop that. You want to celebrate that and enjoy that. So yeah, that's a strong message for me to the young guys.
And that's something that's been a problem in society for decades, that men think they're not as virile, and they question their sexual prowess because they do get an erection too soon. And it's sad that society made that a butt of jokes. I think that these men, especially the younger men, as you've addressed, really need some solid direction on exploring and actually capturing their masculinity and being proud of it. It's very difficult nowadays with the pressures that these younger men have in expressing that, like I said before. In light of those social pressures that these young men are facing, Lenerd, what would you say to them to overcome that and basically say, fuck it, fuck you. This is who I am. This is how I'm going to express myself. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm actually becoming a better person and trying to develop a stronger relationship with whoever that may be. What would you say to those guys?
Exactly, to do exactly that, to drop into their own masculine energy and be proud of it and be secure of it. And then that often means sitting in men's circles and talking to guys like you and like me and a lot of other guys out there that give them that confidence. And also talking to women, a lot of my women friends that says exactly the same thing. That's what we need, you know. We need strong masculine men in this world, but strong masculine men that are in their hearts, and that's super powerful. So I'm saying to those guys, drop into your heart, stay in your heart. And I mean, I hope they understand what I mean if I say that. What I, you know, in other words, feel the love in your heart. You know, so come from a place of love. And if you know we all got triggers, we all got wounds. Do some inner work. You know, do some workshops, do some stuff, do some emotional work on yourself, because we come on this planet with that, having to do that. You know, it's just the reality of where we are in our evolution and our consciousness. So do that inner work, but from that space, then very much honor your masculine energy, honor your erection, honor your virile energy. So that's beautiful. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's amazing. I'll give you an example. You know, we often use this example is that if you see a beautiful woman, you know, out there, and if you look her straight in the eyes and you just, with adoration, and you say, wow, with your masculine energy, you give a compliment about you're beautiful. I tell you now, 99 out of 100 women will love that, or 90 out of 100. The 10 or so, the minority that wouldn't, are those that have a lot of inner work that they still need to do. So if you come from an open-heartedness space with adoration and an adoration of the outer feminine, I promise you it will be received in a good way. I think where the problem is, and that's where a little bit, I think where things like porn and stuff like that can change that energy. And I have seen it with myself also. You know, often we walk and then you see a beautiful woman, but you don't have the courage to look her straight in the eye. You wait for her to walk past and then you look at her. And I think that's the kind of energy that is probably not so good. That's what we all kind of way need to work on. I think that's the energy that women wouldn't enjoy. But I'm giving that example to give you the other example of, like, for the guys out there to try that actually from a heart space. Look at a woman and say that to her and see what's the reaction, you know, and then let us know what you find. But my experience has been is the woman just starts glowing and they love it because they can see it comes from a beautiful, authentic, open space. And that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think you're spot on, Lenerd, with that. The problem that I've experienced, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, is, as I mentioned before, the influence of the mainstream media, the poor influence of social media that is saying everything to the contrary. They're pushing forward that 10% of women that you described rather than the 90% that truly the way you described. And I've seen that too. Most women want a strong, passionate, loving, masculine man that's going to chase them around the couch once in a while. But a lot of these women don't have that voice. They're not allowed to have that voice, especially on social media, because it's not what the powers that be want, at least this country, to know. And I think it's important to have voices like yours out there that encourage men. This is not the case. That is a small percentage of females that you're seeing on these YouTube channels that,
Sure.
You know, I'm a 10 and she's a 10 and she's a 10 and we're all 10s, but all you guys are 5s. This is not what is happening out there in the real world. And that's the type of message that we've got to get pushed out to these men so they can build their self-confidence again and not be influenced. That they need to have exposure from men who get it, who walk the path.
Yes, 100%, Marco. And I almost want to say, you know, just to add to what you're saying there, is that remember that there's often the minority that screams the loudest, you know. So it's like we talk about this, I believe, I don't know what the percentage, 2 or 5 or 10, I don't know what it is, but I really believe it's a minority of women. For the guys out there to see it in perspective, you know, and if it isn't social media and it is like, feels like 80%, just no, it isn't 80. It is more like 8. Because a lot of other women are not saying that. And then I also know a lot of women in my space, in you know, South Africa, Europe, I don't know, America that well, but in the spirituality, sexuality space that are very vocal. I mean, there's a clip I did a few days ago with a lady in Switzerland that's inviting me to go and speak to a group of men there, do a workshop for a day with men there. And she was very vocal about it. She was expressed it even more directly than I did about that, how they really want that, that type of masculine energy. And just a point you also make me think about. We could talk about relationships earlier. Is that polarity in relationships, and that's why women don't want it. Generally speaking, women, why would for a relationship to work within a man and a woman? Let's just talk man and woman for now. There need to be polarity. There need to be a feminine and a masculine polarity. And yes, it can be interplayed and you can play different roles at different times. But broadly speaking, there must be polarity. So if a woman is here and this man on the other side is not masculine enough, then there's not enough polarity and the relationship can't work. So therefore, women want guys that can be strong in their masculinity. Otherwise, the relationship is not going to be good.
Yes, we were put on this earth with those masculine and femininity attributes for a reason. And to deny those or to repress those or to overextend those are all serious issues that not just impacts relationships, but impacts everyone around you, your work associates, your pets, everything. So
exactly.
Hey, Lenerd, let's get into your book a little bit. I find this discussion fascinating, and we could probably end up making this a 4-hour show. Maybe we do a part 2. But as far as your book is concerned, you have a book that you put out called Jump, the Epic Soul and Sex Adventure. What can people expect when they read it? And what have you seen people that have read it, what have you seen them get out of it so far?
Marco, let's start with the last point. I'm continuously surprised of people telling me that their lives have been changed by this book, and I'm not exaggerating. So the book itself is a memoir. It's about the last probably like 10 years then of my life, 10, 15 years of my life. And it goes through the journey of this learning and awakening. And it talks about it, but in a very light, easy to read way. Even in business days, I'm a simple, straightforward guy, and I talk plain language. And the book is also very much written in that way. And it talks about that period, and it's a memoir, so it explains what happened, and it goes through the workshops and the things that happened and the effect it had on me. But in the book is also, then because of that, a lot of pointers. So as you read the book, you will see the journey and the story, but in that story is a lot of pointers of different things that one can do. So what I find is that people seem to see certain things. Certain people see certain things that they go, wow, and they get aha moments, and then they can dive deeper into that. The book is, it's only, 250 pages or so. It's a 5-year journey. I could have written a book 10 times, 10 volumes of that book. It got also edited down a bit. So it's also very dense. The information is very dense. But it seemed to be quite a good journey for people that are starting to ask questions about life, about themselves, about the world around them. It seems to be quite a book for them then to expand and explore more.
And this is the book that's not just focused on men. Women can purchase this book and get just as much out of it. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. No, definitely. I mean, I never saw this thing with men, like working with men as such happening. It is just recently that some people have asked me, can I do these 21-day online journeys with men, where they take them, 21 days, specifically just men. But I also, so that just started happening recently, but very much, this is a book for anyone. It was officially published in South Africa, so it's all in all the bookstores in Southern Africa, but that might be a bit far for some people. It's also on Amazon. You can also get a printed copy on Amazon, and you can get the ebook and the audiobook. And you can also get it on my website, lenerdlouw.com.
And your workshops are out on your website as well. So if people want to get into greater detail of what's in the book or learn more in a one-on-one or even online, correct? They can go to your website and set that up.
That's exactly. The website is a good starting point. From the website, you can go into all the different social media places. It's got a bit on the book, it's testimonials, or on the book and on online courses. And from there, you can navigate. And there's also a lot of free stuff. There's a lot of articles I've written. I love writing. Quite a few interviews on my YouTube channel there. So it's Lenerd Louw. It's LENERDLOUW.com. LenerdLouw.com.
And folks, we most certainly will have that in the description below, and we'll pop that up here right now for people to take a look at if you happen to have a pen in your hand. But don't worry about it. Everything's down in the description. Lenerd Louw, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. It's very refreshing to know that there are men with your experience out there helping people and young men specifically today when they definitely need it. Thank you for coming on the Boulder Zone.
Thanks, Marco. I really loved our chat and look forward to talking a lot more. Much love, brother.
Let's do that. Thank you, sir.